Peace. How you doing, brother?
Good. How's it going?
All right. It's all right. Would you tell the people who you are, please, and introduce yourself to the crowd?
Sure. My name is Rabbi Asher Meza. I run a channel called Torah Judaism International, TorahJudaism.com. And I teach online. I teach Torah, a little bit of politics, and the common sense. And hopefully that's what I could contribute to this conversation. That's it.
Okay, so the title of the show is You Speaking to Me About Israelite Nationalism 2021. They see the title.
Mhm.
And what you know about Israelite nationalism?
So, if what you mean by Israelite uh, is people in the covenant, well, if that's the case, we're still waiting for our state to be given to us by God, essentially. Right? God says that exile, sin, and redemption is a formula in the Bible and Torah that when Israel begins to sin, first God sends them prophetic intervention. If they don't listen to the prophets, he exiles them. And only when they repent does he bring them back to the land. I know there's a lot of people who see the state of Israel today as a fulfillment of prophecy. I don't. I support the state of Israel, but not for religious reasons. I don't consider that Jewish nationalism or Israelite nationalism. If that's the case, I think God would have to apologize to a lot of Israelites that he didn't let return, that he exiled for less sins than the sins committed by the Zionists today, particularly the secular Zionists. That's how I view Jewish or Israelite nationalism colloquially. When people say it, they typically mean the state of Israel. If that's what you're looking for, I don't endorse that. As a matter of fact, most Orthodox Jews do not endorse the state of Israel from a religious perspective. Now, the Orthodoxy or the Judaism most people are familiar with is what they hear on YouTube, what they see on TV, but that's not real academic Judaism. That's not real Torah Judaism. That's a watered down form, really there just to appease the masses. Uh, am I on track so far?
Well, that's what you knew about it, and that's what I asked. So excellent conversation. But I'm talking about basically the mixed multitude. Like I created a organization, and I don't know how much you know about religious or spiritual organizations, but I created a non-incorporated association, church, basically. I know you probably don't deal with the church, but I created a non-incorporated church, not a 501c3, and the name of it is the Israel of God, the mixed multitude, the church. So as I've been talking about different things with different people here on the channel, I was speaking to a brother by the name of Rabbi Lewis. He put me on to you speaking to General Yohana about the Torah and the KJV and stuff. I ain't seen it all yet, but I heard you speaking about the mixed multitude. So, from your understanding, what is the Israel of God and the mixed multitude from a biblical perspective, a Torah perspective?
Sure. So the Torah tells us that alongside the Hebrews, as they were leaving Egypt, there was a mixed multitude of peoples. In Hebrew, it's called Erev Rav. Erev Rav. And they're not mentioned so much. I believe, what is it, Exodus chapter 13. They appear perhaps chapter 12, Leviticus chapter 11. They appear like maybe 3 times in Torah. The term also appears in the book of Nehemiah, but that's referring to a different mixed multitude. That's just a descriptive term. But the mixed multitude that came out alongside the Israelites, it seems that they were absorbed into Israel. They stood alongside the Israelites on Mount Sinai and accepted the Torah alongside the Israelites, which teaches us a lot. And most people don't want to touch on this topic, that being an Israelite is really, or being an Israelite in a covenant with God is not limited to blood or pedigree. That here it shows that alongside the Hebrews and the Israelites were Hittites, Midianites, uh, again, the mixed multitude, telling us that God is not a respecter of titles and of pedigrees, and that he wasn't really just bringing the Hebrews out of Egypt. He was bringing anyone who wanted to come out. And this is the argument I use against bigots in and out of my religion who try to make my belief system ethnocentric. Like God only cares about blood. No, if God only cared about blood, why would he include the mixed multitude alongside the Hebrews? Right? The mixed multitude were there, accepting the Torah alongside the Hebrews. As a matter of fact, there's a theory that Joshua, actually not Joshua, I'm sorry, Caleb was a descendant of the mixed multitude. It says that his father was a Kezanite. I believe that's the term. That his father was an Egyptian. Who else left alongside the Israelites? The mixed multitude, right? So there would have been Egyptians. It would have been people from all different nationalities there. So one of our biblical heroes probably had a background connected to the mixed multitude. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that information because I do the same thing over here. I'm into it with the Hebrew Israelite. I'm an anti-Hebrew Israelite.
All right.
I'm not pro-Hebrew Israelite.
So we're kindred spirits.
So I try to tell them, I said, look, man.
Theology. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I try to tell them, I said, look, man, it was a mixed multitude. The strangers can get salvation if they're willing to sojourn. They just like the homeborn is say in the book.
That's right.
Correct?
It says there should be one law.
If you wanted the homeborn, and you keeping the same laws, statutes, commandments, got the same circumcision, same dietary, same feast days, and everything else, you're basically a citizen within the nation of Israel.
So this exists, and it's alive and well in the Jewish world. Perhaps you should consider becoming an Orthodox Jew. This is what modern day Judaism teaches, that only because you weren't born of Jewish parents or Israelite parents doesn't mean you're outside the covenant, right? There's many people who converted. Sammy Davis Jr. converted. Marilyn Monroe converted. I mean, I don't know how devout they were. Our belief system allows for converts, and it's specifically because of the idea of the mixed multitude that opened up the door for Judaism being known as a universal religion. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be so happy with it. And I'm pretty sure you probably wouldn't be either. Assuming that God cares about who your mother is or who your father is or where your background's from, that's not the God I worship. The God I worship believes in new beginnings and takes free will and effort into account. If someone wants to do the right thing, it doesn't matter if you're white, it doesn't matter if you're black. I mean, what matters is having a contrite heart and making yourself pliable and workable so God can use you.
Yeah. So that's why I'd rather talk to you instead of try to debate you on something.
We don't I don't even call it debates when I do interviews. I consider this an interview. I love talking to religiously minded people. Like, even though we don't agree on half the stuff, at least we agree on scripture, right? That it's there and it's authoritative.
Yeah. Well, we agree on the mixed multitude, if nothing else. We already
it's in the Bible. I mean, we got to blame God for it. Yeah.
Now, when you were talking to General Yohana, and I don't know what the conversation was all about because I haven't watched it all. Like I said, I heard you speaking on the mixed multitude, and I said, I'm going to get in touch with this brother. So what was that conversation all about? Because it's like he was denying citizenship in the nation.
Mm-hmm. So one way to defeat Black Hebrew Israelite theology is to show them that outsiders can enter the covenant. Once they acknowledge that, there is no more Black Hebrew Israelite racist theology, right? There's some Black Hebrews that are not racist. I've had discussions. I remember I ran into a guy in Walmart and I recorded it. It's on my page. And they were talking about how the Blacks and Well, according to the vision that Araya, the Black Hebrew, had, that all the lost tribes are in the Americas, right? The Seminole Indians, the Haitians, the Cubans, all that stuff. I mean, most people don't know that was a vision that a Black Hebrew Israelite had in the 70s, and they built a whole religion around it. Right? I mean, talk about sticking to scripture. But I was trying to get the brother to realize that in our Bible, we have a book called Ruth. And in this book, we have a lady who's known as a Moabitess. I mean, she's from Moab, right? Who clearly has to tell Naomi, her mother-in-law, I want your people to become my people, and I want your God to become my God, saying that they weren't her people or her God before. And then we see her being absorbed into Israel to the point that she marries Boaz, a chief and judge in the community, right? Well, they didn't push her away just because she was from Moab, and the book even calls her a Moabitess, telling us that it doesn't matter about your past; it's about your future, right? That's it. And of course, he wouldn't acknowledge that. Same thing with General Yohana. The reason I mentioned the Erev Rav, the mixed multitude, was that if I would get him to acknowledge that outsiders could enter the covenant, that would break his racist ideology, right? So his response to this, which is, I figure, because he's in the upper echelon of the Black Hebrew Israelite movement, is the Black Hebrew Israelite response.
He's the third from heaven, so he's the head of the movement.
Well, their response is that the mixed multitude were Hebrews to begin with, that they were Hebrews who fell away, who were brought close again. And he had the same opinion about Ruth. He clearly says, apart from all the instances that it makes reference to her being a foreigner, he says, no, she was actually an Israelite. And Boaz was just bringing her into the mix. So then I gave other examples.
Rahab?
I don't think that it tells us what happens to Rahab. In Jewish tradition, it says that she marries Joshua. But it does show her, fearing God. But the reason I wouldn't use her as an example is because it doesn't really show her going all the way, right? Sure, I mean, she let the spies in, and she feared God. And I think Black Hebrews could understand that outsiders could fear God and be in God's good graces, but they can't be in the covenant and they can't become Israel. So now, someone in the Bible who came closer than Rahab was Jethro, right? We see Jethro offering sacrifices, the father-in-law of Moses. But another great example is the end of the book of Esther. The end of the book of Esther, it says that the people, in Hebrew it says, mit yahadim, that they became Jewish, right? And I know most people don't like using that word Jewish nowadays, right? I mean, well, unless you're traditional Orthodox Jews, because it doesn't appear much in Scripture, but it appears in the book of Esther. It says they became Jewish specifically. So the notion exists. Of course, he danced around the idea because Black Hebrew Israelite theology reformed is really Black Hebrew Israelite theology no longer. Once you acknowledge that God cares for anybody willing to follow his words, then you can no longer call yourself a Black Hebrew Israelite, or at least a Black Hebrew Israelite who elevates race above everything. Yeah.
I'm listening.
Yeah, well, that's pretty. It's not so complicated. But General Yochanan made it complicated because that's how you keep control amongst a population who are not too sophisticated. I mean, his audience are so enraged with I don't know, the idea that America is systemically racist. I mean, it's really it's they politicize religion, and I understand that there's a lot of pain in the Black community in America, but pain plus blame, i.e., blaming the white man, equals hate. And that's what they harnessed to propel their movement forward, right? This Black liberation theology, but this is not the message of the Bible. They've hijacked the Bible. And you know what? To be honest, to use equal scales, some Jews do the same thing, okay? and I call them out on it as well because I don't tolerate hypocrisy. Some Jews walk around saying, "No, no, we're the chosen people," and uh, although most, virtually all Jews believe you could convert to Judaism, some Jews will make it difficult for people to come in. Right? There is blame all around. What I see that really gave birth to the Black Hebrew Israelite movement, right? It's not a coincidence that it rose out of places like Philly, New York, Chicago, places where there's a lot of Orthodox Jews. What it is, it's reverse racism. The racism that they may have felt from some Jews in the community, they absorb that and they're shooting it back at the world, right? The same.
You know, that's how the term Hebrew Israelite came about.
Yeah. How?
Do you know that?
No.
They basically told them you can't say you a Jew or Israelite, this and that. So they say we Black Hebrew Israelites.
Right. Yeah.
Because
that's
the
a problem.
Jews are not, the Jews or the Jewish people are not black. So when you say you black, you separated from them. Then you say you're a Hebrew. You say, well, we are the real Hebrews. They're not Hebrews. And we Israelites. You can just separate yourself and you don't have to argue with them no more.
Right. So that's the fault of white Jews. I mean, white Jews should have no problem making the statement that yes, there's Hebrews that were black. There's I mean, like biblically, the Hebrews are a people of color. Now, do I believe that they're specifically black? That means that there couldn't be an Asian Hebrew or an Arab-looking Hebrew. That I don't believe, and I also don't believe that the original Jews were white at all. Right? But I don't think that it should be shameful to acknowledge that you have Gentiles in your background. So King David is the great grandson of Ruth, right? You believe in Jesus. Well, Jesus's great grandmother was Ruth, who herself was an outsider who came in. So where's the shame? So there's blame to go around. And I think that we should acknowledge our faults and move forward together as a people, right? A people who fear God. And that's ultimately what unites us. Bible keeping, commandment keeping people. Yeah.
Yeah. Got to keep them laws, statutes, and commandments.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever considered converting to Judaism?
Nah, I'm an Israelite Christian. I deal with Christ, so I deal with Christianity, but not Roman Catholicism.
There's a group of Jews. They aren't accepted by all Jews, but there's a group of Jews out there who do believe in Jesus. I embrace them as Jews. I don't believe in Jesus, but I think that what unites us is the Torah and keeping the Torah. I don't think who you think the Messiah is or isn't is really that important, in my opinion. So that shouldn't stop you from uniting with other Torah-keeping individuals, whether it is with Messianic Jews or Orthodox Jews, or maybe one day possibly moving to the state of Israel. I mean, not like from a Messianic perspective, but just because it's a place where it's easier to keep Torah, right? The whole country, to a certain extent, is geared around Torah observance, right? The buses don't run on the Sabbath typically. It's easier to get kosher food. I think that you should perhaps consider it. And if no one has ever encouraged you, consider this a formal invitation. Yeah.
No, I didn't talk to a lot of Jewish brothers. I've been on Jewish channels before. Dr. Michael Brown, I've been on this show, talked to him. So I deal with the mixed multitude, like we talking about, not just blacks.
Okay.
I'm born to be racist. I want talk to be racist, so I don't do the racist thing. But far as religion go, I would say I'm a Judeo-Christian, a Judeo-Christian, however that terminology goes, showing that Christianity. Because I debated Vocab Malone. You know Vocab Malone?
Yeah, I mean, I have an interview with him as well.
Well, I debated him about the ecclesia being Israel and those who sojourn with him. He said that's not a fact, but it's like based on the biblical text, when the Holy One, when the Christ came, he came to his people. He taught them first, and then they let the other people in. So he said, nah, that ain't it. And he didn't want to deal with it. He wanted to deal with salvation for the others more. But it's like Christ opened the door for others to come in. Joshua,
well, yeah,
the first one, basically, Joseph, I should say, he was like the first Christ. He let Rahab in. He didn't kill her and her whole family back there. He said, hey, all of them dead, so you can come on and sojourn with us.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I mean, it sounds good to me. I do believe that Jesus, if he did exist, was a Torah-keeping Israelite, and he got involved in politics. The whole notion of the Messiah, post the destruction of the temple, was really a Romanized, developed idea. That means that this idea didn't really predate the Roman occupation, even though some people will point to a few statements in the prophets here and there that refers to some son of David. That really refers to the throne being reestablished, right? Because we know that King David is the archetypical king and ultimately male warrior poet in our Bible. So we assume that a righteous king would behave like David. So I'm of the opinion that believing in the Messiah is not an obligatory idea. I don't think the whole Bible revolves around the idea of the Messiah. I think the Bible revolves around the idea of a good God and his ethical code for humanity. That's what we call Torah. So this is why I can embrace you like a brother, like a fellow Israelite, even though you believe in Jesus, because it's I think it's a non sequitur. What's important is if you've accepted the covenant, if you'd entered into the covenant. I mean, essentially, the covenant is the agreement to keep God's commandments. If you keep God's commandments, then you're 100% an Israelite and 100% my brother. And we shouldn't exclude people. That. Yeah, no problem. That we shouldn't exclude people for reasons that don't exist in the Bible. So the notion of the Messiah doesn't literally appear in the Bible. There's glimpses here and there. It's easier to see it. Like if you have certain preconceived notions, if you come from Christianity, you come from a religious background, right? I mean, the notion of the Messiah is just as prevalent in the Orthodox Jewish world as it is in the Christian world, right? But what it's not is, it's not literally there. It's not literally. I mean, the notion of the Messiah doesn't appear in the Bible. Now, there's a few statements of an anointed one. Fine, every high priest was anointed. Kings were later anointed. The Torah doesn't say we anoint kings. Some prophets were anointed. Fine. Regardless, it's obedient. That it's ultimately obedience that matters, and to emulate a good God, and that is what solidifies our identity as Israelites. Yeah.
I appreciate the conversation.
No problem. Yeah, my website is TorahJudaism.com. I have a show every Monday night at 9:30. You guys can look me up on YouTube. Just type in Asher Meza, Meza, and join in on the conversation. We welcome everyone. We get Christians, Jews, Muslims, everyone in there. And I like talking to God-fearing people, even though we don't agree. We're never going to agree 100%. Okay, like even if you're a traditional Orthodox Jew, if you walk into a synagogue, the chances that you agree 100% with that rabbi on everything is very slim. So if we agree more than we disagree, that should be enough to call each other friends. Okay, so that's it, man.
Yeah,
but I appreciate the time.
That's why.
Yeah.
That's why I had you over. I looked the network, so I'll be over there every now and then. Remember, let me in the room every now and then. Say, hey,
no. I mean, it's a lot of people in the room. Yeah, but I mean, you're welcome. All right, so I think we'll just call it a wrap there, you know, and like if you want to ever discuss anything, just let me know.
All right. Well, I appreciate it.
Okay, no problem. Okay, take it easy.
Thank you.
TorahJudaism.com, right? TorahJudaism.com. Take it easy.
All right, peace. All right, everybody, that's the show. Let me put the chip bag down. Forgive me, I was hungry. I just went and got some food. I'm eating chips, but at least them sun chips, so they don't affect me, and I had a strong. Hey, peace, I'm out. Cash app is $Real Doctrine. If you would like to help, I'm pretty much broke now. If you would like to help, $Israel Doctrine. The PayPal is kind of, which is me Israel Doctrine. That's a week or so. But hey, I'm find me begging. I just ask you and tell you how to do it. And if you look to do it, thank you. I will give you a heart back if you send me a a cash app. But I appreciate y'all coming over here, and I appreciate the dialogue from them, brother, because the community think I'm crazy for saying people can't join the nation of Israel. Like I said, my congregation is the Israel of God, the mixed multitude, the church. That's it. It's non-incorporated, not a 501c3 or whatever. But we'll talk about that some other time. Let me get up out of here. Peace.